Hello, everyone. Good morning. It is February 22nd, Monday, and I am recording the lecture over the physiology of the eye. So, at this point in time, we should have a good understanding of the parts that make up the eye. So, we have that fibrous tunic, the vascular tunic, we have the neural tunic. And remember that our eyes are only possible because they're connected to our brain. So, all of this is possible because of our nervous system and the flow of action potentials through the brain. So, the brain is how we recognize things, the brain is how we process what we see, and we're even learning that the brain works even though our conscious mind might not be attached to that. I did mention that to some of you about the TV show I watched where they took a man who was blind based on the occipital lobe functioning of the visual center in his brain. So his eyeballs worked fine. The physiology of his eye worked perfectly. It was the physiology of his brain that caused him to not be able to consciously see what his little cameras on the front were taking in. So, wiring problem there for sure in the brain. So they put him on a little test and they asked him to walk through a room that they had filled with obstacles. And he slowly went, and as he walked through, there was a number of obstacles that he walked around, even though he had no idea what it was, what he had walked around, but his brain sent him there. So don't forget that the eyes and the connection to the brain are one of the most complicated things that are even known about, even discovered, how do you process 264 million pieces of input at the same time? So I'm pretty sure that we have computers that can do that now, but you have two of them in your eyes, which is so very strange. Okay, anyway, the physiology of the eye, at this point, you should know all of the parts of the eye without any problem. So right now, I am going to have you guys notice this thing here in the middle. Of course, we call that the lens. Here would be the iris. Hopefully you can name these parts with me. What do we call the hole in the iris? The hole in the iris is the pupil where the light comes in through the transparent part at the front of the eye, which we call the cornea. Remember, the cornea wraps around and at some point becomes opaque. At that point, we call it the sclera. The sclera is the tough outermost coating on the eyeball. Okay, so we have our ciliary body here. Remember, those are the muscles that are going to change the shape of the lens in order to have the image, whatever it is that you're looking at, be properly projected on the back of the eyeball. Now, remember, in between the sclera, we have the choroid coat, which is part of that vascular tunic. That's where we're going to find the blood supply. We're going to find the dark pigment. And that is going to be how those neurons of the retina are able to function on top of that. So those were our three layers: the retina, the choroid coat, and the sclera. Okay, we also call them the fibrous tunic, the vascular tunic, and the neural tunic. We call them a lot of different things. Okay, so what we're going to do right now is talk about how this part right here works. Okay, so you have a focal distance, which is going to be the distance between the spot in the back of your eye, the focal point. Does anybody remember what we called it? We called it the fovea centralis, right? If I go back and I go to my retina here and I look, I'm going to find that fovea centralis. It's going to be that center of the retina where we have sharp color vision, okay? So we have sharp color vision there at the fovea centralis, or the focal point in the back of our eye. So we have light that comes in, and as that light hits, hopefully you've identified this as the lens in our eye. The light is going to hit that lens, and it's going to be bent, and it's going to be bent into that focal point. The closer the light source, the longer the focal distance, which is kind of strange, but this is why the ciliary body has to adjust in order to make it that if we have an image that we're looking at, like a fence with a blue post on the left and a pink or red post on the right, light can only travel in a straight line. You have a hole here. That light has to make it through the hole. So if it comes down here, not going to make an image for you. If it bounces over here, not going to make an image for you. If it bounces off your retina, if it bounces off your iris, not going to make it to the retina. So the image has to come into your eyeball through the pupil, and the lens has to bend it just perfectly that it focuses on the back of the eye. Okay, so the left ends up on the right, and the right ends up on the left. Now, here is right and right by vision, but again, we're talking anatomical position. If I was a human looking at this fence and this was on the left side, well, if I'm the human, and that means this is my right side, okay? So please remember that that's how we're talking, is anatomical position, okay? So notice this image is flipped. What is easier to notice and less confusing is the points are up. When that light goes straight through the eye, that means those points are pointed down. Here is the flat part of the fence boards, and the flat part of the fence boards is here at the top, okay? So it flips it upside down and turns it front to back as it goes through your eye. And that is because the light travels only in straight lines, okay? And it's brought to a single focus point, which we call refraction. All right. So when we look at close things, there's something else that happens. We call it convergence. And this is why I went over the muscles of the eye and why the muscles of the eye are so important. Because if you have something closer than 6 meters away, your eyes have to look inward medially in order to get a single image. So this is an easy thing for me to explain when I've had students looking in our microscopes all year, because there's 2 images that we see when we look through our microscopes. There's 2 lenses. Now, if you don't adjust your microscope correctly, you will only see one. And if you see both, that is because the images have converged. You have made it so that way your 2 eyes are seeing one thing. And this is how we have sharp, close vision. Okay, so when I look at something in my hand, my eyes have to come together to make 2 cameras see the same vision. And again, this is called convergence. All right, so a chameleon is one of those lizards that can look in many different directions all at the same time. They do not have any convergence. Okay. So they will have refraction of those parallel light rays passing through their eyeball, creating the image on the back of their eye on the retina, but they won't have 2 images in order to create sharp focus. with distance, three-dimensional focus. Okay, so convergence gives us that three-dimensional focus, which is fantastic. Okay, so we're going to talk about that when we talk about our visual fields, because we have a two-dimensional field and we have a three-dimensional field. Okay, but how does this all happen? This all is going to happen through the idea of accommodation. And if you know what accommodations are, of course, accommodations are things that change something in order to make a successful outcome. Okay, so in order for us to see, our ciliary muscles are going to have to change the shape of that lens. If the distant object is what we're looking at, the muscles can just relax, which means we can see things that are far away with less energy and effort than things that are close up. So when something is far away, our lens can simply be its relaxed state. And when it's at its relaxed state, the light rays bend correctly to give us sharp focus of that inverted image, which our brain will then flip right side up for us. Okay? And again, our ciliary muscle, please be reminded that that's what surrounds the lens. And in order to look at something close up, your ciliary muscle is going to have to squeeze to make those light rays travel to the back of the eye in correct focus. So again, this is why we need reading glasses when we become older. This is why I need reading glasses. They say that your eyes will start to go at about age 40. And when you turn 40 and need reading glasses, you will think of me in this conversation right now if you're paying attention, because most people need reading glasses after 40. Now, I was lucky and I didn't need reading glasses till I was 44. So I was able to push it off for 4 years. But everyone seems to need glasses at some point in their life. And it's because of the way this focuses. Okay. So some people don't have the correct focus right here. And this is what would require you to wear corrective lenses. And then sometimes people have problems with both. And that's when they get those glasses that have the lines in them, where you have a stronger prescription in the bottom than you do in the top, right? They're called bifocals. I've started wearing bifocals when I'm in the lab as well. So I need glasses these days to see far away. And I need glasses to see close up. So I wear bifocals. 2 different focal points in my same lenses and my glasses. All right. So that is accommodation. Accommodation is going to be how we contract or relax our ciliary muscles. Remember, ciliary muscles are smooth muscles. Remember, you have absolutely no control over those ciliary muscles. They work based on the information your brain sends it in order to adjust the light to create a clear picture for you. Okay? And then this right here hopefully will explain your visual fields. I am going to draw a very bad picture right now. And I am going to draw a very bad picture of your 2 eyeballs. Well, they're not your 2 eyeballs, right? So this eye right here is going to see like this range, okay? And this eye here is going to see this range. So what I want you to realize is that over here, your eye is going to see 2-dimensionally. It's only going to be able to see height and width well. Okay? Then we have this region in the middle. Now this would be the same for the other side. Okay? This would also be 2-dimensional. All right? So we can see height and we can see width. But in the middle here, we get a crossover, and these two things here are what give us three-dimensional vision. That means that we can see length, width, and height. Height. Okay, so it's very, very interesting that we are able to have three-dimensional vision based on the fact that we have two eyeballs. And if you think about this in math, right? In math, if you have an x-axis, you don't know how far to go until you get the y-axis, which gives us the depth perception, okay? So when you look through one eye, it is very difficult to have depth perception, meaning seeing how far something is away from you. All right. But when you add both of the eyeballs, oops, that's not what I wanted to do. When you add both of the eyeballs, you get this crossover section here. And when you get that crossover section, you get what we call binocular vision. Okay. So binocular vision is what is going to be there in the center when you have three-dimensional vision. Okay, so peripheral vision is when we have two-dimensional off to the sides, and binocular vision is what gives us depth perception, and it's when we are seeing two different images at the same time. It then allows us to create a cross section, which will give us depth perception. We know how far away something is. Okay, our next video is going to be over disorders of the eye, so we will be going through that before the end of this unit on our test. So look forward to that later in the week. I hope everybody is well. Let me know how I can help you. Remember, office hours are always available to everyone, and you can send me messages through the Google text. You can send me messages through my email. You can send me messages in the chat during class. Take care.